Man, they were mad. They were mad about this ice there. They said, you know, and I don't blame them. I mean, I told the guys, I said, you got to get out and try and do something, even if it's hard. You got to look like you are trying to do something. And as it turned out, they were able to do something. You know, people, when you've got a big community like that, you know, people will complain, and I don't blame them. To tell you the truth, I think I wouldn't like it either, but it did have a solution, and that's a good thing. So anyway, I see they're having a big meeting down in El Paso, Texas. Now, he went down to the border. I've been in El Paso, and you know, it's a fairly nice American town, and on the other side is Juarez, and that's Mexican. When I was there, like this is like, oh, when was it? 1956. The Juarez I saw was still pretty good shape. We walked across the Rio Grande River. We parked on the other side and walked across and took a taxi. And we were in these clubs all over the place. You know, there was all kinds of stuff going on. The girls were just sitting around the mall. You went into a place there, good heavens, there was girls sitting around like about 30 of them, all along the walls, sitting and looking at you, all young, you know, good-looking girls. And anyway, they had a restaurant in this one place we went to, and we went in to eat. And we had, I kind of laughed, you know. Here's all these girls. We're young guys, you know, in our early 20s. And it just shows that how easy it is to take things for granted. I mean, these girls were hanging around our necks and, you know, wanting to, you know, do something with us and all that. We just say, oh, no, lay down. Not right now. Oh, goodbye. No. And we'd sit at this table and we'd have a couple of beers and we'd argue and talk about pipelining because that's what we did. And these girls that just come and tried to get our attention and it was just push them away. But anyway, we went in and had a meal, supper, and they asked us what we wanted. And this one guy, there was three of us, and this Louis Beauchamp, he was a big 260-pound guy. He was, you know, a young guy too. And he said, we'd like steaks. And then he grabbed his stomach and shook it. And he said, this is from Alberta beef, he said. So he said, I hope you got good steaks. Oh yeah, we got good steaks. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, okay, we want medium rare, blah, blah, blah. And we were sitting there and we each had a steak. And they came in with this steak and all these vegetables and all that stuff. And they had this bowl of green relish. And I looked and there was no ketchup. And I was used to having ketchup on that. There was no ketchup. Well, I thought, well, I suppose this relish is good enough. So I put this relish on my steak. Louis put the relish on his steak. And Ron Zook, the other guy, put relish on his steak. And we cut a piece, whatever, put it in our mouth. And we just, you know, we were just grabbing water and just doing everything. We were coughing and man started to sweat and everything. And we finally drank enough water there to kind of calm it down. We lifted up this steak and just hit it and scraped and knocked all this relish off it. And then we were able to eat it. But man, I guess that was, you know, I don't know which, you know, which, you know, not, I was just thinking, you know, well, I think, you know, a hot one. What's the, I don't know the names of the hot ones right now. But it was a hot one. Very, very hot. That was an eye-opener. You know, you're in a strange country, you don't know what the heck you're doing. And so that was that much for that. we left Juarez. This was about December 5th, I guess, or something like that. We were there. And we went to, okay, what is it? Not Juarez, but in Arizona. Oh, jeez. Anyway, we went along the Mexican border, and well, we went along the American side border and pulled into these towns. And this one town, uh, I don't know, I can't remember. Anyway, this was 1956, and they were not bad shape. I mean, they were all the places we went into was marble fronts and nice big streets and sidewalks and stuff like that. And the buildings were pretty fancy because they were all marble outside. And anyway, it looked like we were the only tourists in this town that day. And we were wearing kind of like t-shirts. And the Mexicans were wearing big, heavy coats because it was winter and they were freezing. And we didn't think it was that cold. We just had t-shirts on. And anyway, we went into these clubs. And it's all these girls in there. And we'd go in and do the same thing, sit there and drink beer and argue and blah, blah, blah. And the peddlers would just pester the hell out of us. I ended up buying the serape from this one guy. I forget. I jewed him down. It was a pretty nice big serape. So I just threw it over my shoulder and we carried on down the street to the next club. And when we went down the street, these guys, the band, Mexican band, followed us. And, we had like a little parade going down the street because we were the only bloody tourists in town. And we went to the next one and got there, and this young guy, he was like more Spanish than Mexican, and he was very, very, nice looking, handsome guy, young, handsome guy. And he said, did you meet, he said her name. And I said, yes, I did. Well, he said, she's my sister. Oh, what is she doing in this damn place? And anyway, I guess that's how they built up a dowry. They had to have a dowry before they got married. So anyway, we went from one to the other with these bands following us and all this stuff. I remember that. That was quite a thing. And then we finally left. And I don't know where we went, but we went somewhere else and had a motel on the American side. That's way back in 1956. I had a brand new 1956 Chevy two-door hardtop with overdrive. And that thing would go, man, it would go. I mean, at 110 miles an hour, it would just be purring, like 2,000 RPM. Or no more. And on overdrive, it may even be less, I don't know. And the thing, I mean, that was a hell of a car because it was balanced so good, you could twist the steering wheel going 100 miles an hour down the road and it just go boom, boom, back and forth and straighten out on its own. Which Lonnie Zook guy, he liked doing that too. I didn't like that. It made me very nervous when he did that. When he was driving, he'd go 110, 120 sometimes, and he always liked to drive at night. And sure as hell, the cops would catch us, and we'd hear the siren going behind us way back, and he'd step on the gas to beat hell, and he'd go faster until he got to town, and then he'd swing into this town, down the street, and in behind some buildings where he could just see the highway. And they could watch the police go roaring by. And he said, yeah, we'll wait just a minute, and we'll go again. And away we went, never got caught. You know, we went to the Grand Canyon that time. Well, we were in, first of all, we ended up in Los Angeles during, well, I don't know when it was, like 8th or 10th of December. And it was, Christmas decorations on the streets all over the place. And was really tricky to drive because you couldn't figure out where the lights were. They had Christmas lights all over the place. And these lights were sometimes up on a building or, on a post somewhere. They weren't down right in the traffic too much. And it was hard to do. But anyway, we made out. We drove around and stayed there for a while. And, huh, yeah, we ended up going to Los Angeles. Or no, not Las Vegas on the way back. Stayed on the road to Las Vegas. We were driving along. I wasn't driving. Ronnie Zuck was driving, and this blonde in this green Ford was driving along the highway, and we'd pass her, and she'd wave and whatever, and then she'd come up behind us and whatever. Finally, we pulled off, and she pulled in behind us, and well, we decided, you should ride with us, and we'll go to Las Vegas together, and blah blah blah. So she said, okay, I'll do that. So Louis Beauchamp said he'd drive her car, so he drove her car behind us, and she rode in the front seat with me and Ronnie's up. And, she was built really, uh, I don't know, she was a dancer or something because she had firm, very firm muscles and smooth skin, legs and arms and everything else. And we got a motel, and we had, I guess, I don't know, 3 beds or something. It must have been because I had a bed and Louis had a bed and Ron had a bed. And she ended up staying with Ronnie, whatever. Anyway, I had my wallet on my night table beside me. And when I woke up in the morning, she was gone. And I opened up my wallet, and all my money was gone. And they had a picture of me looking at that. So, what me and Louis told Ron Zook was, well, we're out of money. We're in Las Vegas, and we've got to get home to Drayton Valley, Alberta. So you can handle the cash. Here's the cash we got. Here's a couple of bucks, and here's this and that. Wow, what do you mean? How can I do that? Anyway, we made him do it, and we put gas on our credit card because we all had a credit card, and we were able to put gas on the credit card and just keep driving until we got home. So that was the end of that trip. That was quite a trip. There's a lot more to it than that. But we stopped at the Grand Canyon. I drove right up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. Stopped the car, got out, walked over to the edge and looked down. I don't know how many feet or 1,000 feet or whatever it is, way, way down to this little river running down. And we're standing there, nobody around, no, nothing, just an open desert. And anyway, we found this big rock. I mean, a big rock, I think it'd be 1 foot rock or something. And we picked it up and rolled it over to the edge. And then we shoved it over to the edge. And then we stood and listened. And it went boom, 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 all the way down. And I think it kind of knocked loose a bunch of rocks or something. But you'd surely never do that again. No. And we left there. And I remember we were driving along, and here's this little cart, kind of with a little house on it, cart on a donkey tied to it like he wasn't pulling it. And this was out in the desert with the big seguras, or the cactus, big ones. We climbed them. I climbed one. Had spikes on it, a good 6 inches long. And I just crawled up these spikes and up on it. And they took a picture of me. But anyway, I was going to take a picture. I had a camera and I was going to take a picture of this, looked like a prospector or something. And when I got fairly close to the cart, I noticed a door open and a rifle come right out pointing at me. And I just stopped right in my tracks. And I said, ooh, no, 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 no. And I backed up, just backed up. I'll tell you, that you think about it when somebody's got opens the door and puts a rifle on you. Yeah, and I don't know if he'd have shot me or not, but he might have. I don't know. Anyway, he didn't. So anyway, that was a trip in 1956. 3 young guys going on a trip like that. That was quite something. That was a trip of a lifetime, actually. I remember on the way down, we drove down through Salt Lake City. It would be like, end of November, 1st of December or something. And we stayed overnight in Salt Lake City. We got up in the morning and here had snowed and it was at least 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I thought, well, maybe Christmas. We're going to leave here and I wonder if the highways are going to be okay or whatever. So we started heading out of Salt Lake City. We're heading, basically south out of Salt Lake City. And as I went out of Salt Lake City, this highway went up a hill and up over a mountain. And I stopped at the bottom and looked, and here's like 4 or 5 cars on the way up, all slid off the road. They couldn't make it. So, well, we decided, I said, I think we can do this. I said, we're going to have to get a good run at this. So I backed up for, I don't know, quite a ways, a couple hundred yards. And I started off at the bottom and I just floorboarded it. I got it going on the level down below till I was going like 80, 90 miles an hour at least. And I just kept going up the hill. And as I went up, I let, release the gas feed just a little bit so it wouldn't spin out or whatever. And I kept doing that till I went by all these cars, in between them all the way up the mountain, the whole way. And I never let it spin once. And I got up and over and through, over the mountain we went. And I told the guys, I said, yeah, see, there's a difference. These guys aren't used to driving in winter and on snowy roads. We've had to do that all our life, which is true. And, if you got it in a high enough gear and going fast enough, you won't spin out. It'll just keep pulling if you don't overdo it. Because if you spin out, that's it, you've had it. But I don't think that you're going to be driving through Salt Lake City up in 6 inches of snow tomorrow. Might be nice to know if you want to tell somebody that. Anyway, the world is turning and carrying on. Man, oh man. I sure hate the way things are going in the United States. Such terrible, bloody, deceiving and lying. I can't believe this guy's the president, at the end. Elected a guy like that who can't hardly talk, walk, do anything. He's a disaster. He's really a disaster. He's ruined the United States if he's still got 2 years to go. If he lasts it out, he could ruin the United States. This Republican Congress now, they can do certain things, but they can't really stop him too much because he also controls the Senate. And the Senate will pass something and then that's it. And the only thing they can do is withhold the money. They're in charge of the purse. Money has to come from them. They have to appropriate the money. So they do have, a bit of power there, that's for sure. And they're going to try and do a whole bunch of things, which is a good thing, I think. They're want to kill. They voted for a thing to kill off 87,000 new IRS agents, income tax agents. I mean, what in the heck do they need 87,000 more for? Crazy. And they set aside $80 billion to do this, and they're going to be issued firearms. Now, what kind of a deal is that? I mean, who would want to live in the United States with that kind of threat? People coming to your door and trying to nail you for tax of all kinds. Oh man, that's bad, bad, bad. And they set aside money in this $1.7 trillion budget they passed, and they passed it. And it's, I don't know how many billions in there are for border security, but not the United States. It's for Egypt and somewhere else. Now, how dumb is that? And they can't, they're running short of oil, and they trying to get more oil out of Russia and Arabia. Well, they do buy oil from Russia. And I think they're going to have to redo the XL pipeline because they found out that they shut down up to 50,000 jobs with that, and a source of cheap energy from Canada, like 800,000 barrels a day. And that would go to the refineries on the Gulf Coast. And they got big refineries down there. I mean, oh, man, they got big refineries in Alberta, but the Gulf Coast refineries are way bigger, and a whole pile of them. And they'll export that fuel or sell it back to the States or whatever, because, they'll refine it. They can refine it. They're set up to refine heavy crude. And it's not all that heavy when it gets there. It's diluted out with something else. And I also see that the new premier of Alberta, I think she's a crackerjack of a woman, and I'm not, a big promoter of women in politics or anything, but I do think that she's got it on the ball. She's put through a deal that will basically prevent the federal government from trying to stop Alberta from processing and selling its oil. And she wants to also get Saskatchewan and Manitoba on board so she can build a port in Churchill, Manitoba, which is on the Hudson Bay. And it's always open year round. And she says she doesn't want the federal government to control the approval of pipelines, because she said they just, they're so destructive with it. She said, I want the government, like Alberta, to do all the footwork, do all the permits and all the stuff necessary, and the corduroy, set aside a corduroy alley for pipelines right to Thompson, Manitoba. And then she said, we'll take offers from private companies to build this pipeline. They don't have to go through that. They can just, we approve them, they can start tomorrow. And I thought, now that is a smart thing, because the bureaucracy of stuff like this, there's so many layers that there's absolutely no guarantee you can get it through. And the federal government won't release any of these. They just layer them on one after another. and they wouldn't be able to kill the Alberta economy like they're trying to do now. And, well, in Saskatchewan too. Saskatchewan's got actually just as much oil sands as Alberta, but they're not being developed. And I guess they could be later. But it's a big, big area. It covers Fort McMurray and over east into Saskatchewan, way over. And in fact, it may be even bigger in Saskatchewan. I mean, it's big in Alberta, a huge amount. But the you know, when somebody comes along and is that sharp and man can she can talk, she's not afraid to take on anything, and she's I mean, you can understand what she's talking about. She's very good at it. And I hope she makes out, because there's going to be an election in a couple of months in Alberta, and they say they're NDP socialist and the this United whatever Conservative Party are neck and neck. And I think to myself, what a bull as that is. No way, I don't think that's true. But anyway, that's what they say, because nowadays everybody lies about politics. Plain, flat out, bald-faced lie about their opponent, about their other party, about everything. They just make up lies. And the public has no way of checking that. They don't know. And they may not believe it right away, but pretty soon they do. The politicians, the crooked politicians, know that lies work. And regardless what you say, people will finally believe. They'll think it's their own idea. And that's what happens. I talk to people all the time who shoot off about this and that, and especially like Trump, the liberals and Trump and stuff like that. And I think to myself, where did you get this? Well, he did that and he did that. I said, how do you know that? Well, he did that, you know. I said, you are being led down the frickin' garden path, and you seem to think that that's your idea. You know, that's really bad. Anyway, Jesus Christ said, the last thing he said when he rose from this earth, he said to his disciples and whatever, he said, don't be deceived, because the deceiver is here. And that is so true. Satan can't make people do anything really, but he can influence them so hard that they just driven to do it. They don't know why they do it, but they do it. That's why people, I mean, I've done it myself. I know what I shouldn't do, but darned if I don't do it anyway. Or if I should do something, I don't do it. Not like I should. And that's a curse. I mean, I kind of know it, but it happens to me quite often. I'll say to myself, well, let's just, I'm not going to do this now. I'm not going to quit, going to this or doing that. The next thing you know, I'm over there and I'm doing it again. And how I justify that, I don't know. But that's what happens. I don't know. It's a good thing that a guy can ask for forgiveness, because he just shot and lost without it. Because people, and like myself, or whatever, I don't kill people or steal from people or anything, but I do things wrong. I know that. It's a very hard thing to just keep them on the straight and narrow path all the time. And I'm so glad that I realized in my later years here that I can ask for forgiveness from God in Jesus' name, and God will do it. And that's a very comforting thing because when I got baptized 3, 4 years ago, I thought I want to get baptized because that is the getting rid of the sin of your life, all the things you did, washed away, wiped out. And I thought, I got to do that. I mean, I've done all kinds of things that aren't really kosher, you know, not really right, but I mean, I didn't do anything bad or anything, but I, I always am amazed that God has set a way of judging who's going to be in the next world and who is going to be his son and live forever with him. And it's by faith that you believe that he sent his son, Jesus Christ, who is God, to the earth to be crucified and killed for my and your sins. Because God's law is plain. If you break his law, the penalty is death. So he had to have somebody to satisfy his law, because his law is supreme, never changes. Yeah, oh man, I was thinking of something, but it missed me. Yeah, oh, I know what it was. When I realized in the Bible, I forget what book or verse it is, but I think it's in Genesis or something, where it says that it just says that the Lamb of God was slain before the foundation of this world. So that tells me that God has had a plan all along, and he's got a total plan of everything that happens on this, in this solar system and in this planet. And I believe that's the case because we're we're just so unable to fathom how great God is. You know, when he says, I count the hairs on your head, and a sparrow doesn't fall unless I know it. Well, I mean, if he does all that, he knows everything. He knows who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. Well, I don't know. I wish more people would realize that it's a fairly simple and easy way to guarantee your future life, not this life. This life's not your best life. This is can be a tough, mean life. But the life to come, if you're in the first resurrection, you've got it made. And not just for a little while, forever. Now you think about that. I mean, my daughter and my sons, they don't they don't say anything about that because their mother was sort of poo-pooing the idea all along. I couldn't get them to go to church with me or anything. Which was too bad because she poisoned them, I guess. And I haven't been able to do anything about it. So if anything, anything can happen anytime, and if you haven't done a thing to ask God to forgive you and whatever, which he says he will to the utmost, then you're running the real risk of the biggest mistake you could ever make in your whole life or in eternity. Huh. I hate the idea that my daughter, who's the oldest, and my sons are basically, they're not following this. And I will think that that'll be the case. I mean, I can pray and ask for it. Maybe it'll work. I don't know, being they're my family. I don't know. I'm going to ask for that because I can't do anything about it. It plainly says that God is the only one who can draw you to Jesus Christ. Otherwise, no. And he may not be doing it all now. He may be doing some of it later. So anyway, there's the good and the bad and the ugly and whatever else. The thing is, there is a way. And that's left without a way. It's not hopeless. And I'll tell you, it's very, very, what would you say? Good to feel that you have a way of countering all this stuff in the world and that you could be accepted. You do these simple things. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got nothing to do with going to church. It's got nothing to do with anything like that. He just said, if you believe that I sent my son to die for you, you will have eternal life. So anyway, think that over. I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking that over. You don't have to be a raving, fanatical person. It's pretty simple. Anyway, I better shut up. Go to bed. Thank you for listening, and good night.